Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on this really important event. The Delaney Moot Court and Mock Trial Program will provide support for student participation in intramural and external trial and appellate competitions. And the Delaneys hope to encourage women to create and follow careers in trial and appellate work, which makes this a really special event because it allows us to celebrate two amazing programs in our law school, one being our Mock Moot Court and Mock Trial programs, and other being the trailblazing alumni that have come from the school. I always think that a school is no better than the alumni that we leave with. And one of the great things about this school is we have some of the very best alums in the country. This naming is also significant, or dedication is significant, because it is the first significant space in the law school named for female alumni, and it's long overdue. We had planned to do this last year at the 100th year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, and COVID got in the way. And so this is long overdue in a lot of different ways. One of the things, though, I wanted to highlight before we get started is at the time that we were going to dedicate this last summer, we replaced the portraits at the very front of the law school building, and we replaced pictures of old courtrooms with pictures of four trailblazing judges. You might recognize Linda Chesham, the first circuit judge in Indiana. Chief Justice Loretta Rush, the first Chief Justice of Indiana woman. Sue Shields, the first woman appellate justice in Indiana and the first woman to serve as a federal magistrate in Indiana. And then Juanita Kidd Stout, the first African-American state trial judge anywhere in the United States, and later the first African-American woman to serve as a state Supreme Court on the state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Those are great. We have many more, right? You know, our first woman graduate who became the first AG in Connecticut, the first female justice of Wisconsin Supreme Court, first woman Chief Justice of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. There's lots of firsts, but these are four judges that I think particularly are inspiring for our students when they get to argue in the moot court. And I'm very grateful that you spurred that change for us as part of this dedication and to be able to do that. It's also an important, significant dedication because it was the gift to support the moot court program that really closed out. It was one of the final gifts in our bicentennial capital campaign, which seems a long time ago. It was historic for us as we reached $65 million in support of students and faculty and the school, which was absolutely fabulous. So today we're going to hear from a number of alumni who have been trailblazers and leaders themselves. Before getting to hear from Kathleen and Ann Delaney themselves, we'll get to hear from Chief Justice Loretta Rush and former Dean and Provost Lauren Robel. Before we do that, though, we get to hear from one of our rising stars. Before I get to that, though, we also were able to invite in today's ceremony those students that are currently competing in the moot court program. I think many of the executive board from the Sherman Minton moot court competition are here. I see a couple of them, but we also have some of the competitors that have made it on to the latest rounds. And so I'm just going to read their names and maybe they can wave. Natalie Schmidt, I know is here. I think a round of applause each time we name one of these names. We have Megan Riley. Courtney Davis. Brennan Gooden. Chase Rose. Alexandra Esposito. Evan Fitzgerald. And John Gilmore. Our students this year are absolutely inspiring, and you should consider coming back for the moot court finals, which will occur here. Chief Justice Rush is going to be heading up that panel on November 8th, I think. And so that's coming up very soon. It is my pleasure now, though, to introduce you to one of our rising stars, third-year law student, Devin Dunkley. Devin was last year's champion and recipient of brief writing and oral advocacy honors for the Sherman Minton Moot Court competition. She is currently the executive competition coordinator for the Sherman Minton Advocacy Board. She's also president for Outreach for Legal Literacy, which inspires elementary school students. She's an articles editor for the Indiana Law Journal. She's a Dean's Writing Fellow with our legal writing program. And after graduation, she'll be an associate in the Labor and Employment Group at Wall, Lanston, Dorch, and Davis in Nashville, Tennessee. Can we have a round of applause as I turn the podium over to Delaney?
So first, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to speak today. I really enjoyed my experience in Moot Court. I'm a big advocate for it. So anytime I get to encourage other people to participate, I'm happy to do so. First, I'd like to begin by thanking the Delaneys for their generous contribution. I know it will have a tremendous impact both on myself, but also other students at the law school. If you can't tell, even after winning Moot Court, I am still incredibly nervous at public speaking. So if I'm stuttering or have to repeat myself, please forgive me. A few months ago, at the beginning of the semester, I was walking home from school. Actually, it was from Professor Whitus's class, Employment Discrimination. And I stopped at the crosswalk, and another 2L in the class approached me, and she said, "Are you Devin?" I said, "Yes, that's me." And she said, "Didn't you win Moot Court last year?" I said, "Yes, that is also me." Then she said, "Well, did you mean to win?" And I paused for a minute, and I thought, I don't know, did I? And I think for me, when I think about my experience in Moot Court, I didn't go into it intending to win. That wasn't my goal of participation, but rather I saw it as an opportunity for both personal and professional growth. To be frank, I did poorly during the practice arguments, the first rounds of the Moot Court competition. I had no confidence in myself. I struggled to make eye contact, and I really gave no semblance that I thought I knew what I was doing. That being said, starting from the practice arguments, I received great feedback from the judges, most of whom are attorneys who graciously volunteer their time to judge. And I really made a point to implement that feedback moving forward in the competition. And I don't think that I'm unique in that respect. I think a lot of the competitors who are moving forward in the competition this year can attest to that. The feedback that we receive, both in terms of presentation skills, but also the substance in our argument, is feedback that I've been able to carry over into my classes as well as my summer experience. Last year as a summer associate, and then the summer before when I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office. For me and other participants in the competition, Moot Court provides a wonderful opportunity to hear from experienced attorneys like the Delaneys who graciously volunteered to judge last night. Now, as a 3L on the Moot Court board, in the 3 weeks since the competition has started, I've personally been able to see both the personal and professional growth in the 2Ls who are competing now. For some people, that means developing confidence. I know that's something that I really struggled with going into the competition. For a lot of students, it's perfecting the substance of their argument, because it's one thing to be able to get up there and kind of act like you know what you're talking about, but it's another thing to really know what you're talking about, as some of you might have learned this week. After my participation in Moot Court, my analytical skills were strengthened, and so was my confidence. For many students, writing the brief or participating in the oral arguments is their first crack at starting legal analysis from scratch completely on their own. Going into my 2L summer job, I felt that my experience in Moot Court had given me confidence in my abilities and bolstered my critical thinking and writing skills. I know this will serve me well as I enter my career. I'd like to conclude again by thanking the Delaneys. I had not met a single female attorney until the summer I began applying to law school. Sorry, this part makes me kind of emotional. To have female role models in the legal profession is invaluable. Sorry, I don't know why I'm so emotional right now. It means a lot to me to have female role models in the profession, and I thank all 4 of you for providing that. So again, I'm grateful for your commitment to the law school and to giving back to our community, and just generally staying involved. It means a lot to students like me. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. That was tremendous. Speaking of role models, I now have the great pleasure of introducing Chief Justice Rush. Justice Rush took the oath of office as Indiana's 108th Supreme Court Justice in November 2012. The Judicial Nominating Commission named her Chief Justice in August 2014, and she was reappointed as Chief Justice in 2019. Prior to being elevated to the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Rush spent 15 years at the Lafayette Law Firm and was elected 3 times to serve as a Tippecanoe Superior Court judge. In addition to her responsibilities on the court, she has held leadership roles in a wide range of professional organizations, including the Commission on Improving the Status of Children in Indiana, the Judicial Nominating Qualifications Commission, and the Conference for Legal Education Opportunity, among others. More importantly, she has been a tremendous supporter of the school. She hires our students as externs and as clerks. She served for many years on the Board of Visitors. She was inducted into our Academy of Law Alumni Fellows in 2017, the highest honor we can bestow upon a graduate. She's a driver behind our Rural Justice Initiative. Each year, we're fortunate to have tremendous students that go through the court's ICLEO program that funnel into the law school. And of special mention, at least to me, when other states were floundering last year in the pandemic, Chief Justice Rush provided leadership that was critical to our students who were taking the Indiana bar exam. She graduated from the law school in 1983, and like Devin, she was a Sherman mentioned moot court competition champion. Please welcome Chief Justice Rush to the podium.
Well, Delaney family, on behalf of the Indiana Supreme Court, thank you for your gift. 40 years ago, I argued in a courtroom, but was the old courtroom a lot bigger than this? Because it seemed huge when I did the final argument. And I will be the judge a week from Monday, so bring your game on. And Justice Slaughter is here. Justice Slaughter, can you wave people be? We've got 3 Maurer grads that are on the Indiana Supreme Court, which I think speaks very well of the school. I learned a lot through moot court. You know, when I started law school, if somebody asked me if you're going to be a judge, there hadn't even been a woman appointed to SCOTUS yet. We had never met one. There weren't any. Arguing and getting confidence that came with it was huge. It prepared me for 40 years in Indiana courtrooms. I was a litigation attorney for 16 years. I argued in front of Alan Sharp, who you clerked for. He was not easy. Virginia Dill McCarty, Sarah Evans Barker, Hugh Dillon, and the skills I learned here. And so when I have clerks and externs come from Maurer, even if you're just externing from your semester, I make you argue a case in front of me in the Supreme Court, because I want you to be able to say, I've argued in the Supreme Court. And they go, what? And I said, it's a conversation. Remember that for you that are going to be arguing. It's a conversation, and is what I say. So I had a couple full circle moments, you know, my 40 years since I won the Sherman Mitten, spending so much time, my whole practice, both as a practitioner and as a judge, have been in courtrooms, and I've seen different levels of advocacy, and it's so important. It's so important in so many ways. You have the privilege to be in this noble profession, to stand before some judges to argue your client's case. What is greater than that? And making sure you learn the skills and making sure the judges have the skills is important. I remember when I was in law school, how many of you remember Tom Schornhurst? Okay, so he would give me the Dickens. I don't know about you. So, I mean, he was Socratic method on steroids. So I remember I went up to his office one time, and he would, I said, what you tell me, explain. He was just saying, well, some of you haven't played sports in high school. Some of you gals, actually, at the time. He said, haven't played sports in high school. I said, I played sports. And, in fact, I used to write. I advocate to get letter jackets. And by the time I was done, we got windbreakers. So that was a big deal. So fast forward, one of my first cases in the Indiana Supreme Court, guess who was arguing in front of me? We had become good friends. It was Tom Schornhurst. So I thought about, from the teacher became that. So that was really something. My final argument, Judge Eschbaugh, as you remember, Judge Eschbaugh, just a fantastic judge. You will remember the judges on your final panel. They will stay with you as so many of the memories. Harry Prather. I remember going to find Gas City. Remember every case, every contractual dispute in the state of Indiana happened in Gas City. I was like, I got to find out what's going on in that Gas City. So I can't thank Maurer enough for what it did, what learning advocacy. I moved 16 times growing up. My dad worked for the railroad. I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I lived between Hoboken and the South Side. And I was in speech classes. I was like Loretta. And getting to say around the rugged rock, the ragged rascal ran was a huge thing for me. So here I am doing moot court and having the privilege of sitting on the High Court of Indiana, taking Justice Sullivan's spot. So thank you so much. And Delaney's for doing this, and the message that you send for the people to come, that these powerful women did this, and they put their treasures behind this effort. Thank you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Justice Rush. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Lauren Robel. Lauren is a 1983 graduate. No, you get an introduction. Is a 1983 graduate of the law school where she graduated summa cum laude. After clerking for the Seventh Circuit, she returned in 1985 as a member of the faculty, where she had a distinguished career, both as an exceptional classroom teacher and as a fabulous researcher in the area of federal courts, constitutional law, and federal jurisdiction. After serving over a decade as the school's associate dean, she was appointed the first female dean of the law school in 2003. She's been a national leader in legal education, and she served as the president of the Association of American Law Schools. Her tenure as dean was marked by extraordinary accomplishments, including extraordinary alumni involvement working with people like Anne and Kathleen Delaney. She was named provost of IU Bloomington and executive vice president of IU in 2012, a position she held until June 2021, when finally she returned home to the law school. And can we have a round of applause for that homecoming?
Too much. Thank you so much. Before I speak to this incredibly happy occasion, I want to speak to Devin. And I hope I can do it without choking up, because I remember so well. I clerked at the Seventh Circuit, as our dean said, and I clerked for Jesse Eshbaugh. And when I went back to the Seventh Circuit arguing cases, you know, I didn't think a lot about the composition of those panels until the first case I argued in front of a panel of women judges. And I remember, you know, not during the argument, but walking out of that argument and getting on the elevator of that building that was so familiar to me and breaking down in tears. It meant so much. So, well, I knew that was going to happen. So I understand exactly what you were feeling standing up here. And in that vein, the names that we put on public spaces really matter. They signify whom we collectively hold in esteem and what qualities we believe are worthy of emulation. We can exclude or include by the people we choose to honor. The Kathleen and Anne Delaney Moot Courtroom is a quantum leap forward for inclusion in our law school, and an enormously befitting recognition, both of Anne and Kathleen's careers, and what those careers represent for all women and thus for all people in the quest for inclusion in law practice. Anne came to law school during the years that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was making her sustained assault on the constitutionality of gender classifications as a lawyer for the ACLU Women's Rights Project. At the time Anne started law school, the United States government was still arguing before the Supreme Court that it and the states could prefer classifications that disadvantaged women because it was administratively convenient to do so. And the infamous Bradwell versus Illinois, permitting Illinois to bar women from the practice of law, had been corrected not by the Supreme Court of the United States, but by the state of Illinois. Indeed, it was not until the middle of Anne's third year of law school that the court achieved a majority for the proposition that gender classifications deserve heightened scrutiny. Similarly, it was not until the year after Kathleen received the A star in her federal jurisdiction class and graduated summa cum laude. I'm sure that's a FERPA violation, but sue me already. Justice Ginsburg wrote the magnum opus she had been born to write in United States versus Virginia, holding unconstitutional the state's exclusion of women from Virginia Military Institute, and demanding that all justifications for gender discrimination be exceedingly persuasive. Nevertheless, as the saying goes, they persisted. Both built careers focused on the central goal of the law, the pursuit of justice. Both dedicated themselves to the highest purpose of our profession, giving voice to others, particularly those whose voices would otherwise not be heard: crime victims, abuse survivors, those who had suffered discrimination in all of its pernicious forms. Both did so working within the highest standard of ethics we profess. They are lawyers our students should be proud to emulate. When Justice Ginsburg was working toward the recognition of the full constitutional rights of women, it was women like Anne and Kathleen she was hoping to empower to follow in her footsteps. And through their lives and their work, they have in turn powerfully illustrated the importance of her work. Anne began with a class that was about a quarter women. Kathleen's class was around 40% women. And when the third generation of Delaney women graduate this spring, she will do so with a class where the majority of the law school's graduates are women. So we are exceedingly lucky that future generations of law graduates will learn their craft in a place graced by the Delaney name, and will, by their curiosity about those names, aspire to the best, the very best of our profession. And the very careers we celebrate today should serve to remind them of the power of law to make our country live up to its ideals. Thank you, Anne and Kathleen, for all the gifts we celebrate today. Most of all, the gift of your lives.
Lauren, before you sit down, we're going to unveil the plaque. Would you help me do the honors?
Absolutely, I would. Thank you.
John Applegate, the interim provost and executive vice president, was traveling today, but he asked me to read some remarks too, and so I'm going to do that. Kathleen and Anne, I have long scheduled travel today, which is the only reason that I could be kept away from this wonderful occasion. As my colleagues, and especially my immediate predecessor will say, the naming of the law school's most prominent space for you says so many important things to our students and to our profession. It announces that Justice Ginsburg's experience as an exception, not to say curiosity, in law school, and her early legal career is no longer the reality and no longer who we are. It announces that mothers and daughters and mothers and sons and fathers and daughters are as much a part of our great tradition of the Maurer School of Law as fathers and sons have been. In fact, we welcome theirs as warmly as we welcome she's and hers. It announces that the great generosity of alumni and friends like you are essential to the continuing excellence of our law school. On behalf of Indiana University Bloomington, congratulations and thank you. It is now my privilege to do more FERPA violations and introduce the bio of Kathleen and Anne. So I'm going to introduce them both, and then I'll turn it over for you to say some remarks. Kathleen graduated from law school in 1995 as Lauren Robel said, summa cum laude, an Order of the Coit, and is managing partner of Delaney and Delaney in Indianapolis. During law school, she participated in the Sherman Minton Moot Court competition, placing in the semifinals, and went on to compete in the school's national Moot Court team at regional and national rounds, with travel funding supported from the school. She also served as an editorial staff and was published in the Indiana Law Journal. A strong advocate for civil and women's rights, she's had an incredibly impressive career of high-profile cases and distinction of building her own firm, which has been certified by the city of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana as a women's business enterprise every year since 2002. Kathleen has received numerous awards and accolades, included being elected member of the American Law Institute in 2014, selected into Super Lawyers from 2006 through 2019, Best Lawyers, Lawyer of the Year in multiple years, and received the Indiana Law Leadership and Law Distinguished Barrister Award in 2018. She's been a longtime engaged and dedicated alum, serving as a class agent, as a member of the law school's alumni board from 2011 through 2017, and currently as a member of the law school's board of visitors. It's just a little taste, but we're going to move on to Anne. Anne Delaney graduated from law school in 1977, and she also had an amazingly impressive career and is one of the school's most distinguished alums. In addition to her private practice, she served as a former deputy prosecutor, as a Democratic lieutenant gubernatorial candidate, as a nonprofit director of an organization serving victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, as a standing trustee in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of Indiana. Anne was the first woman in Indiana to run for the position of lieutenant governor, and also the first woman in Indiana to lead a political party when she became the chair of the Indiana Democratic Party. Anne is also a dedicated alum, including serving as a member of the Board of Visitors for 22 years and continues to serve as an emeritus member of that board. She established with her husband the Delaney Scholarship, an endowed scholarship for law students. The law school recognized in 2001 and by induction into the Academy of Law Alumni Fellows, as I mentioned earlier, the highest honor we can bestow upon a graduate. Kathleen's daughter and Anne's granddaughter, Emma Delaney Strinsky, is currently a third-year law student, joint JD MPA. There's a rowdy group here, so I'm expecting another outcry here, which is, no, this is good. I'm encouraging it. Which is believed to be the first time in the law school's history that 3 generations of women from one family have attended the Maurer School of Law. We are so, yeah, there we go. I can say as dean currently, I'm so proud to be able to have your name on our new podium. Kathleen, the podium's yours.
Okay, here we go. Pipe down. Chief Justice Rush, Justice Slaughter, Justice Sullivan, Judge Najam, Judge Magnus Stinson, Dean Parrish, Dean Robel. I always think of you as Dean Robel. I believe Dean Amon is participating virtually. Members of the Board of Visitors, distinguished faculty, Moot Court Board, students, and family. My 3 children, Emma, who is here with us, my sons, Kevin and John, who are working and studying on the East Coast, but who are watching, my 2 siblings, Jennifer and Tim, my parents, Ann and Ed, and a number of my cousins are watching over the internet. Dear friends who've traveled from Indianapolis to be here with us, and Team Delaney and Delaney, who are all here to take up an entire row. May it please the court. Kathleen Delaney of Delaney and Delaney. There are 3 reasons why this honorable court should ratify the naming gift of the Kathleen and Ann Delaney Moot Courtroom to support our Maurer Law Student Opportunities and external trial and appellate advocacy competitions. First, we wish to express appreciation for the support we have received from the Maurer Law School community literally over generations. Second, we wish to sponsor enhanced training in oral and written advocacy skills for future lawyers. And third, we hope to foster meaningful mentoring relationships for law students, particularly female law students, and to encourage litigation careers after law school. First, when I applied to this law school, a handwritten note from Dean of Admissions, Frank Motley, invited me to create a family legacy in my mother's name by following in her footsteps and coming here to Bloomington. Since then, this has been the law school of choice for our family of lawyers. Mom and I shared professors Boschkoff and Bode. Emma and I shared professors Conkle and Amon. Professor Stake introduced me to his son, who has worked for me for his entire career. I met my new law partner, Matt Gutwein, in this very room 25 years ago. My first boss and key mentor, Judge Hamilton, works in the building. Distinguished Mauer alums and faculty have generously supported my career, including Lauren and Judge Shields, Judge Tinder, Justice Sullivan, Professor Henderson, Professor Orenstein, Dean Fromm, Dean Bethel, and retired Ice Miller partners Mary Larimore and Buffy Cohen. Thank you all. Second, training. When I was a law student, I participated in both Moot Court and Law Journal. I made 2 lasting friends through boring read aloud site checking sessions, Elisa Preheim and Craig Burke. But the best experience I had by far was in external Moot Court competitions. The law school sponsored our team to travel to Milwaukee for regionals, and we advanced to New York City for finals. My mother traveled with me to New York. I was pregnant with Emma when I argued. Notorious RBG presided at the finals. If only our team had advanced that far. And third, mentoring. Everyone needs mentors. Young lawyers need lots of mentors. They can hopefully find the right 1 or 2 of them. Moot court and mock trial competitions create wonderful opportunities for students to meet and interact with potential mentors. The competitions include lawyers and judges who are interested in the practice area. They are generous with their time or they wouldn't be judging. Think of Professor Kniebel, think of Professor Wallace as examples of this. We want to facilitate those relationships, particularly for female students. As Lauren noted, when Mom graduated in 1977, she was one of a few women in her class. Those numbers have changed, but women are still underrepresented in litigation and appellate advocacy. We want to change that. In conclusion, we ask this honorable court to ratify the naming gift of the Kathleen and Ann Delaney Moot Courtroom and for all other relief proper in the premises. Thank you. Now I get to introduce my mother, who needs no further introduction, and it was not an accident that I went before her.
Is that because it's age before beauty, or how did that work? Well, Kathleen recognized all the dignitaries here, so I won't do that again. But we do, both she and I would like to thank you all for traveling and celebrating this special day with us and our family. It's also a chance for us to give back to a school that has allowed us to have very fulfilling careers as a result of graduation from Mauer. When I graduated in 1977, there was one woman on a general court, elected to the general court, a general jurisdiction, and that's V. Sue Shields, who also had the distinction of being the only woman in her 1961 JD class. There was a county court judge appointed, Linda Chisholm, and she later was elected to the circuit court. We've made progress in that regard, obviously, because we have Loretta Rush as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but she's the only woman out of 5. That is not nearly good enough. When I started practice after graduation in 77, I started as a sex offense prosecutor, causing one of the senior partners in my husband's firm to wonder why a woman from a nice family like mine would involve herself in such sordid types of litigation. Well, I did it because I thought it was important to have advocates for victims that I would see as young as 4 and as old as 98, and to educate juries that sex offenses were crimes of violence and not crimes of passion, and that they were there to judge the defendants and not the conduct of the victim. So we've come, as I say, a ways since then, but we still have a ways to go. After several years in career changes, my daughter and I in 2001 started our own law firm. Taking cases many firms were reluctant to take, either because of the risks involved or because of the power of the adversaries. Although we were women-owned, we didn't discriminate. When my husband retired from his distinguished career at Barnes & Noble, We permitted him to join us, but only of counsel, not as a partner. You see, he didn't graduate from Maurer. He went to Harvard. So we were very pleased, obviously, and gratified when Kathleen decided to pursue a career in law and go to Maurer. It was important for us because we don't come from a family of lawyers. In fact, none of our parents ever had the opportunity to even attend college. So we were very gratified by Kathleen's choice. And then when our son, Tim, followed in her footsteps, we were equally happy and gratified by that course of action. We never dreamed in the course of that Emma, a granddaughter, would follow in the same tradition in the family and go to Maurer and graduate and become a lawyer. We have one child, however, that escaped the fold. She chose a different career as a physician in St. Louis. We tend to be forgiving with that, however, because she married a lawyer. So it's close enough. It's close enough. One of the most important skills you'll learn at Maurer is one I've used throughout my career as a prosecutor, a trial lawyer, a candidate, a party chair, and a TV commentator. And that is the ability to advocate. The effective advocacy, whether it's for a client, a principle, or an idea, is something that would serve you extremely well, no matter what you do after graduation from Maurer. It is a very important skill to perfect. Kathleen and I would like you to use this courtroom and the funds available to participate in the regional and national moot court competitions. This will help you to develop and perfect that skill. In addition to that, we hope that you will repeat Kathleen's experience in getting to the finals and maybe all the way to the finals at the end. Please, in the course of doing that, you will help to advance what Dean Motley said so many years ago and help to create the legacy for women litigators in Maurer tradition. So please use the opportunities the law school presents to you while you're here to engage in these kinds of activities to perfect the skills of advocacy. And then when you do, we hope that when you graduate and you do that, you will become a credit, not just to Maurer, but also to the legal profession. Thank you.
So I feel I have unfinished business. First, I think I need to look over to Chief Justice Rush and get permission to grant the motion, right? And so granted. And I also have to say, I saw a few students taking notes. They were like, good signpost, great roadmap, scanning the bench. I know we just did applause, but can we first begin with a round of applause for three remarkable graduates? And before we get to Anne and Kathleen, to Devin, who will soon graduate, but last year's champion, to Chief Justice Rush, and to Lauren Robel. And then many thanks to Anne and Kathleen for this wonderful gift. As I said, we're so proud to be able to have your name on our moot court room. One last round of applause, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next. So one more round of applause, please. Thank you so much for attending this really special event. We're going to have a reception right outside the building in the lobby, and I hope you'll stay around and enjoy the conversation. Thank you for spending this evening with us. For those who participated and spoke, I hope you'll stay up for a few minutes as we have some photographs. Thank you so much for coming to this really important dedication for us.